On the border of Utah and Arizona stands a wall of concrete 710 feet tall. Behind it sits Lake Powell, the second largest reservoir in the United States. Right now, the internet keeps repeating one claim. This dam is about to fail and cut the water off for 40 million people. So we went into the Bureau of Reclamation's own files. The dam is not failing. But 4 steel pipes buried in its base are eating themselves alive. And to understand why, we have to go back to the summer a stack of plywood saved this dam. Start with that number, 40 million, because it is the first thing the headlines get wrong. It is true that around 40 million people across 7 states, 30 tribal nations, and Mexico draw on the Colorado River for some part of their water. But most of that water never reaches a kitchen tap. According to a 2024 study published through NASA, agriculture takes 52% of the river's water, and irrigation for cattle feed, mostly alfalfa and hay, is the single biggest use at roughly 32% of the entire river. The largest American city that sits directly on the Colorado is Yuma, Arizona, with about 100,000 people. Phoenix and Las Vegas pull from it too, but through a web of canals and other reservoirs, not straight out of Glen Canyon. So when a headline says 40 million people lose their water the day this dam stops, it is stretching a real basin-wide number into something it was never measuring. The dam that holds all this back went up between 1956 and 1963, wedged into a canyon of deep red Navajo sandstone in northern Arizona. Crews poured almost 5 million cubic yards of concrete, lowered to them 24 tons at a time, on cables strung across the gorge. Men called high-scalers hung from ropes hundreds of feet up the canyon walls, prying off loose rock with steel bars. 18 of them died before the dam was finished. And what they built holds back more than 8 trillion gallons of water when Lake Powell is full, with a shoreline that winds nearly 2,000 miles through the side canyons. So what actually stops working, and when? To answer that, you have to go inside the dam, down to the bottom, below the 8 big pipes that feed the power turbines. There, buried in the concrete at the base, sit 4 steel tubes. Each one is 8 feet across. They are called the River Outlet Works, and they are the emergency drain, the backup plumbing meant to keep water moving downstream even after the turbines shut off. Their intake sits at an elevation of about 3,374 feet, and at full flow, all 4 together can pass 15,000 cubic feet per second. But here is the catch built into the design. These tubes were never meant to run the show. They were the backup, sized to help the spillways and the power plant through a short emergency, not to carry the entire Colorado River by themselves, month after month, for years on end. Those 4 tubes are the machines still there, and they are in trouble. In 2023, with Lake Powell already low, engineers ran water through them for about 3 days, at a flow little below what they are rated to handle. Then they sent an inspection crew inside to look at the steel. What the crew found was cavitation. When water moves fast enough over a tiny flaw in the metal, the pressure behind that flaw drops so low the water briefly boils, forming tiny vapor bubbles that collapse an instant later like millions of microscopic hammer blows, all landing on the same spot. It chews through steel the way it chews through ship propellers. On March 26, 2024, the Bureau of Reclamation put the finding in writing, in an internal memo signed by an engineer named Richard LaFond. Cavitation was already biting into the one system that is supposed to save this dam in its final hour. This is where the internet gets the story wrong. The popular version is that the dam itself is cracking, a 710-foot plug about to give way and drown everything below it. We checked, And that is not what the record says. The Bureau of Reclamation states plainly that the dam's structure and its ability to hold water are not at risk. The Sierra Club, which would love a reason to tear this dam out, says the same thing. There is no structural risk to the concrete. The arch is fine. The problem is the plumbing, and the failure here does not arrive all at once. It comes down in stages, and 2 elevations are the ones that matter. At an elevation of 3,490 feet, the intakes for the power turbines start sucking air, and the turbines shut down. Engineers call that minimum power pool. Keep dropping, and at 3,370 feet, you reach what they call dead pool, the level below which those 4 outlet tubes can no longer pull any water at all. Between those 2 lines, the dam still works, just less and less. So the honest version is not that 40 million people go dry overnight. It is that this dam slowly loses the ability to pass the water it is legally required to send downstream, and the only machinery left to do it might not survive the job. If you would rather have the real number than the scary one, subscribe. We dig one of these stories out of the record every week. Now, back to 1983. Because this is not the first time cavitation nearly took this dam. In the winter of 1982 into 1983, a huge snowpack piled up in the Rocky Mountains. The dam's operators planned for a normal spring melt. Then the weather turned hot fast. The snow came down all at once, and water poured into Lake Powell faster than the dam could release it. The reservoir climbed toward the top. On each side of the dam sits a spillway, a tunnel cut through the sandstone to carry floodwater around the structure. In June, the operators opened the left spillway for the first time in the dam's life. At first, it worked. Then the ground started to shake, and the water blasting out the bottom turned muddy red, spitting out chunks of concrete and rebar and pieces of the mountain. Cavitation had torn a crater in the tunnel lining. 3 feet of reinforced concrete ripped open and carved down into the raw sandstone underneath. The hole was enormous, over 100 feet long and around 30 feet deep, with a boulder the size of a car sitting in the wreckage. And it was still growing while the lake kept climbing. An electrician named Art Grosch, who ran cable into the damaged spillway, put it simply. That lake was 190 miles long, and it was rising a foot a day. Crews bolted sheets of ordinary plywood onto the tops of the spillway gates to buy a few more feet of room, then swapped the plywood for 8-foot steel panels. In the middle of July, the lake finally crested, about 6 feet below the top of the dam, and began to fall. The dam held. Downstream in the Grand Canyon, though, the record water flipped boats at Crystal Rapid, and 1 passenger drowned. How close did it actually come? Honestly, nobody can give you a straight answer, and anyone who hands you a confident number of days is selling something. The Bureau's operations chief at the time, Tom Gamble, said catastrophic failure never entered his mind. Other engineers, and the writer Kevin Fedarko in his book The Emerald Mile, describe a near disaster held off by inches. What everyone agrees on is the direction things were heading, and what fixed it. After the flood, crews cut small AIR slots into the spillway tunnels, notches that pull air into the racing water and give those collapsing bubbles something soft to hit instead of concrete. The next year, the runoff was even bigger. The rebuilt spillway ran hard, and the tunnels came through clean. They had beaten a brutal problem with a few notches of air. So here is the question that should bother you. If they knew about cavitation in 1983, and the outlet tubes showed the same damage as far back as 1965, why were those 4 pipes never rebuilt? The answer is that cavitation in a spillway was a known risk long before Glen Canyon. It chewed up a tunnel at Hoover Dam in 1941 and Yellowtail Dam in 1967. But the thinking was always that a well-run reservoir should almost never spill, and if it did, you would fix the damage afterward. A report in 1987 even recommended building new outlet works. It was never done. The dam was designed for a world where the lake stayed in a comfortable middle, never too high, never too low. And that steady world is exactly what the drought has taken away. There are two more pieces almost nobody covering this story mentions. The first is Mexico. Under a treaty signed in 1944, the United States owes Mexico 1.5 million acre-feet of Colorado River water every year, delivered at a dam called Morelos on the border. For decades, so little reached the end that the Colorado River Delta, once a green wetland the size of a small state, dried into cracked mud and salt, and the river simply stopped reaching the sea. When people upstream fight over the last of the water, that is who is standing at the bottom of the pipe. The second piece is the reason all of this was baked in from the start. In 1922, 7 states sat down and split the river between them on paper. They divided up about 16.5 million acre-feet a year. The trouble is that the years they measured happened to be some of the wettest in centuries. Tree rings going back over 1,000 years show the river's real long-term average is closer to 12 or 13 million, and under the current drought, it is running near 12 million. They wrote checks for water that was never in the account. A century later, Lake Powell is where that bill is coming due. The town of Page, Arizona, which only exists because the dam was built, has already had to drill a new, lower intake pipe just to keep its own taps running as the lake drops. So where does it stand right now? As of late July 2026, Lake Powell is about 3,523 feet, a little under a quarter full, and roughly 33 feet above the line where the power turbines quit. The Bureau's own forecast has the lake possibly touching that line sometime between this fall and the end of the year. Below it, the power stops, and the water has to go out through those 4 damaged tubes. As a stopgap, crews have coated the inside of the pipes with a tough epoxy to slow the cavitation and buy a few years. Nobody involved is calling that a fix. The real options, drilling new bypass tunnels through the canyon walls, cost billions and take years, and the 7 states still cannot agree on who gives up water, because there is simply less of it than the old paperwork promised. There is even a louder idea now, pushed by groups like the Glen Canyon Institute. Stop trying to fix it at all. Drain Lake Powell, let the Colorado run through Glen Canyon again for the first time in 60 years, and hold the water downstream in Lake Mead instead. Others, including a lot of the people who fish and boat this lake, call that reckless. 2 giant reservoirs, they argue, are the only thing keeping the whole system steady through a drought this deep. And here is the part that gets lost under every collapsing dam headline. The dam has not failed. It stands there, solid, doing the job it was built to do. What is cracking is the set of assumptions poured in with it, and 4 steel pipes at the bottom that were never built to carry a whole river alone. That is the thing to watch. Not the wall, the water, dropping past a line. There are more of these buried in the record, and we go looking for them every week. We will see you in the next one.